Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Palace, episode 4 now. We are flying. The season is fully started. We are flying through the games as well. And, as always, I'm joined by Henry. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. Had a nice weekend away. I did watch the game, so I will be able to give some valid contribution. But yeah, I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well.
Yeah, good. Well, it was the big game on the weekend. The media properly hyped it up. The police presence was much bigger than it needed to be. Of course, we'll talk about the Forest home game, and we will literally dive straight into that. But first things first, if you're new around here, do feel free to subscribe. Let us know what you want to see in the comments as well. We're getting some really good feedback first few episodes, so it's been really good to see that you are all enjoying it. But Henry, Forest at home, really good performance overall. First half, especially, was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, just completely blunted them. I mean, I put out after the game that I was kind of just a bit disappointed in Forest. Really, they thought they were quite average, but that's probably also down to how we played. And we know what they're like. We won't get into it too much, but they are quite sensitive in terms of their online fan base. Um, and they all just take such offence to anything you say. But no, I watched their game versus Brentford, and I was really, really impressed. And I was expecting a really tough game. To be honest, I wasn't expecting us to get anything from the game at all, and therefore I was disappointed with how they played. But yeah, in terms of Palace, I think we blunted them. We played well. Um, we definitely missed Ebbs, and I think we're going to notice that especially if we don't find a decent replacement. We just looked. I think Justin did quite well, but he had so many chances, especially in the first kind of 25 minutes or so, and just did nothing with them. And that was quite frustrating. He just looked a little bit like he's always looked quite confident and quite, assured of himself. But it was almost like, now Ebbs has gone and he's starting in the Prem. He kind of looked like maybe a bit of a weight on his shoulders potentially. I'm not sure. What did you think of that?
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it, when you lose someone of Eze's quality? And for me, Devaney is meant to be in the position of a Wharton or a Hughes in terms of I think he's the engine. He's good at that kind of position where, yeah, he's not as good in an attacking sense, good enough to be a number 10, especially a starting number 10 at the moment. He did kind of like the defensive stuff well, kind of tracked back. I thought second half he was just lost, if I'm being honest, in terms of both defence and attack. But yeah, attacking wise, he just isn't Eze, sadly. And it just emphasised the need for that number 10 massively in that position. And you can tell he's a really good squad depth player. But yeah, if he's having to play consistently, starting 3 times a week, then that is a little bit of a worry. As I said, very good squad depth player for sure. But yeah, it was weird. We had so many attacks in the first half, and yeah, you're right. Forest were a little bit disappointing in that sense for sure. I thought Gibbs White was trying too many flicks and tricks. I don't know who he was trying to impress with them. I know Tuchel was there, but that's really wasn't going to help him that first half performance he was having. And that did lead to our goal, of course, as well, which we'll talk about briefly now. It was a really good kind of build up. Wharton comes back out, goes to Munoz, nice flick, and Ismail Assar again, mate. What a finish, wasn't it? And just how good is he for us?
Oh, it was such a great finish, and it was kind of like it was weird. Like, I mean, obviously watching it on the telly, I was watching on my phone actually, and it kind of didn't look like it had gone in. It was a weird finish, but it was, on the replays, really well taken. Just completely sent themselves the wrong way. Um, and I mean, we spoke about it before in terms of kind of looking ahead to if we sold Ebbs, which obviously we now have, and the fact that you don't replace the player, you aim to replace the output or improve on the output. And that's what we did with Elise with Sarr. And my God, I mean, there were people that were laughing when we signed Sarr and said it was too much money and saying that, he was beyond it and he wasn't a good signing. But my God, he's just so consistent, isn't he? There's something about him. He's one of those players. He's always in the right place. He knows how to finish. I mean, I thought he had a pretty quiet game for his standards. But, one thing I did notice was, I think, maybe the difference between playing midweek with Sosa and then playing on the weekend with Mitchell in terms of both him and Mateta's positioning in the box. I think they almost kind of started to position themselves as if Sosa was crossing the ball. And that's going to take a bit of getting used to. And I think we definitely lacked that kind of additional threat. We talk about Munoz, obviously, another assist for him. He's just unbelievable. But I think if you can have that attacking threat on both sides, it gives you such good balance. And it means that we're not constantly forcing the ball to the right as we do tend to do. But in terms of Sarr, man, I mean, what a player. He's been brilliant for us, and he's improved week on week on week as throughout his time here. Really,
Yeah, really impressive. I think, like, again, you're talking about having to play multiple games now, the Thursday, Sunday. I think that was a little bit, you saw 60th, 70th minute, Mateta and Sarr, who you were mentioning there. Um, they definitely were knackered, like they were a bit out of the game.
we're
That's
two
what
games
happens with
in.
us at the moment. I know, it's
We're
crazy,
two
isn't
games in. Honestly,
it? So that is a little bit of a worry there. But yeah, I think when it comes to finishing, Sarr's ridiculous at it. He's definitely not the creator. That's why it's really, really important we do get that other creator in on the other side, because we do need that. Sarr can do that finishing. 23 goal contributions in 51 games for us is an insane tally.
it's
Really
really
good.
good.
Like over half per match, or just under, sorry. Um, but yeah, so that was really good. But as I briefly mentioned there, the second half, it was a big change, though. They dominate them first 15 minutes, Forest, had the possession. And, I think that, again, I don't want to try and keep on bringing it up, but because we looked tired, it did just kind of, we sat back a little bit and it grew into their goal. But, in terms of their goal, what did you think of it? I know it's a great pass from Ndoye, but do you think it was a lapse of concentration?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lapse of concentration. I tweeted straight away, like, I'm not sure what Richards and Lacroix were doing. They just got caught completely out of position. Um, I mean, it is a lucky pass. He does not mean that. I mean, even Hudson-Odoi said afterwards that the pass wasn't meant for him. He was aiming for Wood. It turns out to be one of the best passes you've ever seen. Not very pleased with Mitchell's defending for it. I mean, I know Hudson-Odoi quick, but he matched him for pace, and then just kind of delayed putting a challenge in. And also, I guess you could question Henderson. Not the, I mean, the problem is, I think he didn't have anything to do for the most
Yeah.
part. So to then be called into action, but it wasn't the. It's a pretty poor goal to concede, I'd say, and it was a shame as well because I think a draw was probably a fair result, but I don't think you would have seen many people complaining if Palace had edged it, just because of the kind of periods of dominance. I think that it's quite easy to look back on the game and think, oh, Forest had their chances, yeah, and their spells, but that's because they all came in the last kind of 10 minutes for the most part. So yeah, not a good goal to concede. Disappointing, to be honest. And I mean, it was just it was a weird goal. There's sometimes you can see goals and you're just like, that's just a bit crap. It was kind of one of them. I just wasn't very pleased with it. But I guess it comes and goes, doesn't it? We get them in our favour as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, Forest's chances came at the end, to hit the post or crossbar, and Hutchinson maybe should have scored. But we had our chances in the first half. Gay hit the post. We had a lot of chances. Hughes' shot narrowly wide, and yeah, I think as well there, you were talking about the goal. You kind of pinpointed basically our whole defence there. I think that literally emphasises how much of a lapse of concentration it was. It's just like we got turned so quickly, and just everyone switched off really for them few seconds, and that was
Well, it's one of
pivotal. And
those. It's one of those where I feel like if the player doesn't mean the pass, how the defence meant to anticipate it? They're obviously
yeah,
not. I think we saw Hughes and Lacroix, Richards and Lacroix were kind of focusing on Chris Wood, and I think that's because they knew that's where the pass was going. And then a slight bit of fortune, I guess you'd call it, has seen the most incredible pass by accident cut through the defence, and suddenly Hudson-Odoi's in on goal. I mean, it's just one of those.
yeah. And for me, Hughes man in the match. Would you mention anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, Hughes. To be honest, I can't really remember any other standout performances. To be honest, I thought generally Henderson was solid. I know he didn't have much to do, but I was quite impressed with his catching from crosses. He was kind of coming out, commanding his area quite well. But yeah, I'd probably say Hughes. He was probably the only person on our team that's consistently stood out. And I know he's always going to kind of play up for that game because he hates Forest. But he did well. He put in some really good tackles and just played well generally. I thought Eze was good off the bench, but obviously not enough to earn man of the match. I thought he had good. That little moment of footwork that he had was absolutely superb. And you just kind of worry that maybe something's happened behind the scenes that we don't know about that has meant that he's been limited in terms of his chances. I'd be really shocked if he doesn't start on Thursday, to be honest.
Yeah, I think his performance, especially defensively, was really good. I think that has been a bit of an eye opener for Glasner. Hopefully, a lot of us want to see him get more minutes, and he proved there that he can come off the bench and have an impact. little bit offensively and defensively as well, which in a Glasner setup for me feels like it's more important in Glasner's head. Um, yeah, I hope that's a little bit of an eye opener. I still think he'll start someone else in the 10. I think if Kamada's fully fit, he's going to start him. That would be my opinion on what Glasner does in his head. But the
Can he
argument
play
for SA to
Commander?
start,
Can Commander
um,
play? I can't remember if he was registered because I think you have to register obviously for the flights and everything. I'm pretty. Did he say he was
yeah,
fit?
yeah, he said like he keeps on mentioning how he could be back for the game on
No.
Thursday, so they must have included him. I mean, Ahamada's mentioned apparently in the squad or registered in the squad, so hopefully they did put Kamada in as well. But yeah, the argument for SA is definitely bigger now, and I think if our score is 0-0, or just 1-0 us, I think SA coming on would be really good on Thursday for sure, and hopefully this is the start of something now this season. Getting them more minutes coming off the bench, it's going to be massively important for him, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And like's been highlighted, we kind of went from Wilf to Elise to Ebbs, and then kind of back to Ebbs. Bounce between Eze and Elise, and we've always had somebody to take over that kind of mantle. And obviously, Paris said, the king is dead, long live the king. But as was pointed out quite rightly on Twitter, normally there is a king in the building ready to take over, which didn't look like there was. I'd love for Romain Esse to become that kind of next player. I think he has all the ability. Um, you just hope, obviously, there's so many different caveats with footballers and their careers. You just hope that everything goes well for him. And because I do really rate him, and I think we saw glimpses of that. And I do completely agree. I'll echo your thoughts on the defensive side. I think that's why Glasner, got frustrated at Anfield. And then obviously did that thing that I don't really ever agree with bringing the player on and then hooking them straight away. But if he has improved that part of his game, there's no reason why he can't play a big part, especially if we beat Fredrikstad on Thursday and we're suddenly in the Conference League proper. That gives a lot of opportunity for young players.
Yeah, yeah, massively. And after this Forest game now, that is what 11 or 12 games undefeated in the top flight. Under Palace at the moment. The most we've had in the top flight since 1990 in terms of our undefeated streak, which is massively huge. We're on to something good, just get them players in. And of course, the big one missing now is Eze. A sad, sad transfer for everyone, but probably good financially, right?
Oh yeah, I mean you had to do it, and I'm not going to say I cried. I was quite emotional watching the interview that's on Arsenal's YouTube channel with him and Ian Wright, because you kind of remember that this is just a kid who had a dream, and that dream has been realised, and that's so nice to see. And just the way that they also the fact that on an Arsenal YouTube channel on for Arsenal fans, Righty and Ebb spoke about Palace for a good 3.5 minutes and about the importance of the club and everything. You can tell he's forever grateful, and you can't really ask for much more than a player who comes into the club and embraces the club and the fans. Gives their all for the club, the team, the community, on the pitch, off the pitch, everything like that. But also, when it comes to leaving, handles himself professionally, and also, looks back and is appreciative of what we gave him. And he's done all of those things. So you can't begrudge him, and I'm so beyond thrilled for him. It's gonna. I've never really liked Arsenal, but it's gonna make not liking Arsenal exceptionally difficult, because I am going to want to watch him, and I'm going to want to watch him do well. And the fact that he's now wearing the number 10 for his boyhood club, the club he supported his whole life, the club who rejected him when he was 13. It's just such a beautiful story. And there's part of it where you kind of just can't be annoyed in the slightest. And we needed the money. Now it's just a case of we need to just knuckle down and invest that money properly, because it's now 7 days and we still haven't brought anyone in.
Yeah, yeah, massively. And you kind of summed up there perfectly everything about Eze. I'd just like to add, obviously, making our dreams a reality, winning that cup for us, massively pivotal in the FA Cup as well. Big, big miss in terms of just like it's sad to see him go. It is so sad. And yeah, epitomised everything about South London as well, which is crucial for a club like Crystal Palace. What a player, Crystal Palace legend. But yes, we do have to sadly move on. Replacements are clearly not as many as we would have wanted, not as many as there was about a month ago. I don't know if you saw how Glasner spoke to Ndoye after the game, after the Forest
Yeah,
game, but it
yeah.
looked like that could have clearly. We were obviously linked to Ndoye, went to Forest. But that kind of, I don't know what to say, embrace at the end clearly showed that they've been chatting at some point. So yeah, maybe he was one of the big ones we wanted. Out of the ones left, Henry, El Canoes, that's kind of stalling, but I think that's because we don't want to pay as much as Leicester wants. So that could be one that happens later on in the window. He wasn't in the Leicester squad on the weekend, so it's a bit of a telling sign. Any other ideal replacements for you, mate?
I like Zolis. I think Zolis is maybe Glasner's number one option. I don't know this for sure, but the fact that El Canoes is stalling, I don't think that's just because of Arsenal wanting to pay the fee. From what I understand, everything's agreed with Leicester, but I think that maybe he's just not the player we 100% want. I think Zolis would be superb. I really like him. I think his output, in terms of, like we said about matching the output, you know, he's got Champions League experience. He's played at the top level in Belgium for a long time now and has constantly produced good numbers. He's a very good player. He's also, relatively young. So there's, potential for resale value there, which is obviously what we like. And I think, to be honest, you're kind of, when you're looking at options, you're counting on one hand because we have left it so late. And I think I do want to touch on kind of the situation in terms of what we were saying earlier about how tired Mateta and Sarr looked. And I understand that fitness builds as you grow into the season, but we are 3 games in now into the new season, and we already look lackluster in the final 20 minutes. We don't have the options. Look at Forest. I wouldn't have been surprised yesterday if Forest had won the game because of the fact that they could bring on the likes of James McAtee, Mari Hutchinson, Carl Mwendo, these kind of players, Igor Jesus. And I'm not saying that I want us to go and spend as much money. I think that the fee for Hutchinson, for example, was absolutely just ridiculously overpay. But, when the only options that Glasner's clearly comfortable with are Edouard, Lerma / Devaney, whichever one's not on the pitch, and Eze, it's worrying. If he needs these players because my main point being that we've seen how much it's impacted us in one game or 3 games in, and I just don't want to even think about how this could impact us when we're constantly playing Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday. It's going to kill us. And that's why I've been so vocal about the fact that we need incomings, we need depth. We still need 3 to 4 players at least, in my opinion. And now we've got 70 odd million, and we obviously had money before that because we were willing to chuck in bids for players like Evan Gesson. So now we need to kind of show that we do have that money, and we need to actually go out and start getting people.
Yeah, massively. I'd like the Solis one. We're getting linked to Baumgartner. I can't really say his name.
Yeah, Baumgartner, yeah. It's an interesting name,
yesterday.
that.
Yeah, Austrian. You would assume Glasner knows a fair bit about him. The links, I don't know how strong the links were really, but it's just another name that's cropped
I
up.
think
Clearly
it's just the
showing.
kind of the chemistry that they would get on FIFA with the same nationality. I don't know. I've not heard
Basically.
anything about that. I don't know if it's purely just the
Yeah.
fact that they're both Austrian and he might be on his way out of Leipzig. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. The transfer links weren't too strong, but it's interesting to see another name in there. For me, El Canoes would be nice, but he's not going to be consistently starting every week, in my opinion, in terms of we wouldn't want him to. We need that player a little bit higher up, even though he has the potential to get to level we want. Obviously, not a direct Eze replacement, but over the last 24 hours, thanks to the very good Mr. Bobby Manzi, who broke it before Fabrizio Romano. Standard, really, these days when it comes to Palace news. But Conor Gallagher, possible return. Loan move talks at the moment. Initial talks have been happening. Nothing has processed from there. It's obviously a highly ambitious move, but a very hard one to complete. There's a lot to go into it, but apparently on Gallagher's side, he'd like to come. He wants more minutes in a World Cup year, and that's massively crucial. Barely played, I think, 20 appearances, a few off the bench last season as well. Looked a bit gutted. I saw a picture of him. Looked a bit gutted on the bench the other day as well. I'll talk about my opinions on it after, but Henry, what do you think about this whole link, and do you think it could work for Crystal Palace?
Well, actually, you know what? I had a lot of people message me last night, and I had an awful signal, so I was trying to reply to people. But I was convinced this was just a non-story, and that it was just a kind of a name being pulled out of people's backsides for the sake of it. Oh yeah, he used to play here. Why not? He's not very happy. He needs minutes. But then obviously with Bobby breaking it, you kind of your ears prick up a bit.
Yeah.
I'm really trying not to get carried away because I love Conor Gallagher to the moon and back. My twin brother met him in Rome Airport a while back, and they spoke for like 25 minutes about Palace, and he absolutely adores us as a club and as fans. I would love him back. Obviously not the Eze replacement at all. I wouldn't want him playing 10. But what it could do is just, offer a bit more competition. I think Gallagher and Wharton would be a really nice centre mid duo. And then obviously you've got, that's only going to raise the levels of the likes of Kamada and Hughes. I think it's a no-brainer, to be honest, especially if you can get an option to buy, 35, 40 million euros. I don't think that would be that bad. I think, that's probably what we were looking at 2 years ago when his loan ended with us in the first place. So the fact that his value's not necessarily increased is probably, it's not a good thing for him, but a good thing for us. So yeah, I mean, I'd be so here for it, 100%.
Yeah, massively, massively agree. I think he's an ideal player for Glasner. He presses, he runs a lot, he doesn't ever look tired, really. 90% of the time he plays, he's got that high energy, he's got that work rate that Glasner wants. And before Eze's injury, when he was playing a little bit further forward, he was getting the goals and assists for us. That was really pivotal. He is a finisher. He can do well. And, he'd be good at that centre mid point. There is a bit of an argument on the Palace fan base whether he'd be good in just a two-man midfield. That is something, we haven't really seen as much. But also, even if you're having that argument, he could play in that left 10 if needed, not all the time. But he does add some goals, something that Devaney definitely doesn't. So it just feels really good. And especially if you're in Europe, you got Gallagher maybe playing in the left 10 and you got Sosa around him. I mean, I'd really like that because it feels like you have that kind of a bit more of a left winger in Sosa, and Gallagher, can be that kind of central midfielder attacking wise, and that would really work. And yeah, I fell in love with him as well. As he was so good that season. It was so enjoyable. It'd just be lovely to have. And Crystal Palace have literally shown that there is a segue into the England setup at the moment, and that will be pivotal for Gallagher as well. So the only issue now is obviously maybe other clubs could join in, get involved, and it is going to be a hard deal. There'll probably be a lot of a loan fee involved, but you know what? If we can get that kind of maybe optional buy clause in there, like you said, that would be absolutely lovely. But definitely still need that other number 10 if I want to try and get it out. That other attacking player, it definitely can't be the only kind of midfielder we get in, right?
No, 100%. I mean, I'm getting really bored of it, and I've finally blocked a few certain people on Twitter because just, I've kind of been keeping track of how long it is since Glasner said that he wanted 5 players and how many players we've signed since then, which is 0. And the fact that we now have 7 days left of the transfer window, and tomorrow it will be 6, and then 5, and then 4, and because that's how numbers work. I'm just worried that it's gonna, we're now almost in a place where we need 1 signing per day. Is that going to happen? I don't think so, and I'm worried because I really, and I don't want to sound like I'm kind of looking down on anyone else as a fan at all, but I live in Brighton. Okay, I've got a podcast with a Brighton fan. I've got quite a lot of good mates that are Brighton fans. When they were in Europe, their squad, which was a lot bigger than ours is now, was absolutely decimated by injuries and fitness issues because of the Thursday, Sunday rotation. So I'm only saying it from experience of, seeing my friends go through the same thing.
Yeah.
And they've all said the same thing to me. You need more players. You are going to be absolutely killed with that rotation. It's not going to work. That's why I'm fearful of it, because I don't want us to get into a position like Glasner said after the game where he would be worried about Palace in the Premier League if we didn't bring in the bodies that he wants. He's not kicking up a fuss to be spoiled and to force Parish to pay loads of extra money. He's doing it because he knows what we need. He's done Europe before. He's been there. He's also won a European competition. He knows what it takes. You give the man what he wants, because he's already shown us, and I've said this so many times, on a shoestring budget, realistically, with not the most backing in the world, he's won us 2 trophies. If you back him, and I said this the other day, I guarantee you he has us punching up where Villa and Newcastle are. Guarantee it, without a doubt. And if we don't back him, ultimately he won't stay forever. He probably won't anyway. But the next club he's at, you will see exactly that, because this is an elite manager we're talking about. One of the best in the league by a mile. So I just think, we just got to really get on with it, because we're running out of time big time. And I just really don't want to miss this opportunity that we have because it's such a glaringly massive chance to push on. And I'm just obviously, as a fan, really passionate about taking that with both hands.
Yeah, and his record speaks for himself. In 2025, I think we've still only lost 4 games under him. Last 12 games that we've been undefeated in: Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool twice, Chelsea, Forest. All these teams spending 200 mil. The last 3 games, Forest, Liverpool, Chelsea have all spent 200 mil, and we're competing with them, competing, drawing. Just push on to that next wins. Glasner is elite. He's shown it. He's won us a trophy against the odds. He's got us in Europe against the odds. And I say it sadly, like hindsight wise, it's going to be helpful for us that we're in the conference right now because it is 2 less games, I think, in the league phase and the competition isn't as strong. So, um, Europa League, we could have been really easily decimated in the Prem, but hopefully because of that, at the moment, we can compete in both. But basically, you got Thursday, no one can be registered for it now because the registration window is done. One training session possibly before Villa away,
Apparently there
and
isn't. Apparently there's not going to be a training session before Villa. So
well, yeah. So then no training session there before Villa. So you're not whatever signing comes in this week is not going to play in the next 2 games. So realistically, I'm picturing nothing happening now to the final few days of the window. Not my personal opinion, not my preference, but I don't see it happening any other way now, which is exactly how Parish has wanted it to play out, which is a bit sad to see that we didn't kind of use this summer. We had 2 weeks now where we've been confirmed Europa Conference. We could have at least brought in one player. Like personally, I know I would have wanted more, but if we had got one player in before the Forest game, I think it would have been a little bit less stressful. But now you've got none, and you're going to have to bring in 3 to 4. Really, you need that cover centre back. You need that number 10. You maybe need that cover 10 as well.
yeah,
Um,
I also don't.
Currently,
I don't
oh, go on.
understand Parish talking about needing to sell Gay after that game midweek. What a stupid thing to say. Why would you? I
Yeah,
don't know
it'd be
why you'd
helpful.
come out in the media and make it that public that you are desperate to sell him. What does that do? It puts his price down instantly. Like that made no sense to me. Not to mention that then if you sell Gage, you need probably another player, if not another one on top of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's been the main frustration for me. We were willing to pay for Gesson. We were willing to pay it. The reason we didn't get him was because Villa offered them 10 million more than us, and they offered him 25% more wages or something insane like that. So it was a no-brainer for him and Nice to choose that option. But we had that money, so I don't like. I understand we don't have loads of money, but we had enough money to do that. So we obviously have money, and now we've got even more money. You'd imagine around 90 odd million, considering how much we were willing to offer full guess on. And now with Eze's sale, that's another 70 odd. I mean, you'd hope we have, even then, even around 70, 75 million to play with. And at the moment, we're just sitting on our hands. And it's so frustrating.
yeah, for sure, mate, for sure. It's going to be really interesting final week of the transfer window. Glasner's having to bring on Edouard at the moment, who he's actually told he does like. He's told he's happy for him to leave as well. So that maybe a striker is going to be needed as well. So it's going to be a stressful last week in terms of transfers. But there is the positive. We are going on a European tour this week. Decent performance last week. It easily could have been 4 goals. Like we hit the post twice, they cleared it off the line, and we scored. Really, really big low block from Fredrikstad.
Oh,
Completely understandable. But with no Eze, it just showed how hard that is going to be for us to break that down. And, it leaves the away leg on an artificial pitch, plastic pitch, a little bit nervy now with a 1-0, doesn't it?
I don't know. I actually think that players like Adam Wharton are going to be even better on an artificial pitch, to be honest. Um,
Yeah.
you're right. And to be honest, it was like what I'd imagine it was like for other teams playing against us under Hodgson. I mean, Jesus Christ, it was painful. I was just sat there like ripping my hair out, like, this is horrible. Like, they literally have 10 men behind the ball constantly. It's impossible. And yeah, you're right. Could have been 4, could have been 5, probably could have been 6 on another day. We missed the creativity, but I think at the end of the day, as long as we get through, I don't really care what the score is. I know
Yep.
people kind of mocking us a bit. Oh, only beat Fredrikstad 1-0, but I actually think that the majority of teams in the Prem would probably have struggled in that game. I've never seen defending like it. And to be fair to them, they defended well. Their goalkeeper
Yep.
made a couple of brilliant saves. And, good on them. I'm so here for it, for them to have a decent performance. I mean, that's probably one of the the biggest standout games of their club's history, with respect. Going away to a Premier League side and only losing 1-0 and showing a really good account of themselves. I mean, I'm ridiculously jealous that you'll be there on Thursday. So that is. I was saying to Luke off air that I wish that I was kind of a real adult. I was saying when we made it to Europe, so I could be doing all these trips and have the money to do it. But I'm absolutely ecstatic for any single one of you that's listening that will be going to Norway. Like that, you're going to have the most incredible time and make the most of it, because you never know, we could lose, and then
Yeah.
that could be it.
Yeah, man. Thinking about losing honestly makes me feel sick just because of how it's going to be on socials, like and in
Oh,
like my mates' chats and stuff like that. That's going to be
just
depressing.
delete it, delete it all.
But like end of the day, they were really good at defending, but like they offered nothing in attack, one
Oh,
attack possibly. And I know it's going to be different when they're at home. They will be a little bit maybe more forward, which actually would probably help us out a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
well, they're going to
but
have to
yeah,
be.
yeah, they've got to come back.
They
They've
don't
got
get
to score at
anything for
least two.
losing a yeah. They don't get anything for losing a playoff 1-0, do they? So they're going to have to go
Y-
for it somewhat.
Yeah, exactly. They've got to score at least 2 goals against the Palace side that don't see too many is a big ask. Sosa will probably come back in. That's good. Maybe Kamada will be featured.
SA,
Won't
all I
expect it to
need.
be. Yeah, SA would be lovely. Don't expect it to be too rotated. Maybe Richards out again. Again, it worked well with Lerma. I think they actually did that for a reason. I feel like Lerma he runs forward a little bit better on the ball, and because they're in such a low block, you don't really need someone
Yeah,
like Richards who's in there more for the defensive kind of aspects. So it did work well. So huge performance needed from the boys. It will be massively, massively exciting. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how Glasner sets up, and I think it will be the first time if SA doesn't get minutes. It'll probably be the first time that Palace fans are a bit like, "Oh, come on, Glasner! Like you could have given him something, a little bit of a go, even if it is the last 20 minutes, half hour." So it is. I'd love to see SA in that game, as you're saying. The way he could get at some of them fullbacks, I think, would be
oh,
ridiculous, right?
it's just a bit unfair. I genuinely think Wharton, if he plays, will absolutely run the show, because whilst most of the pitches in the Premier League are essentially astroturf and artificial because of the quality, I genuinely think that Adam Wharton on an artificial pitch would be ridiculously unbelievable. I mean, you just got the only thing with the artificial pitch, you've got to hope for no injuries.
Yeah,
Obviously, quite a bit of a harder surface on the old knees. So obviously praying that we get a bit of luck and nothing bad happens. But honestly, I think the best that you guys can wish for going out is maybe a couple of goals and just getting through, and it's just a nice trip all round. I hope everybody that's travelling travels safe. I know some of you are taking some absolutely bonkers routes, so good luck with everything, and I genuinely hope that everything goes smoothly for you guys.
yeah, massively. Some of the routes are ridiculous, but it has been a decent start to the season, undefeated, some tough games, not the biggest squad that we would have wanted, and we're still competing well. Hopefully, by the next time me and Henry talk to you, we'll be through to the league phase of the Conference League and kind of knowing who we're going to be playing in the next round, what away days there'll be, what home games there'll be. It's going to be really important. You only get to play the teams once now in these competitions, so you get some at home, some away, so that could be pivotal as well. We will be doing next week's episode as a transfer live stream because it is deadline day next Monday. So that'll probably be in the evening sometime. Be sure to check in on the live stream. That'll be on YouTube as well. So yeah, be sure to check in for that. Be sure to subscribe. Give us a follow if you're listening on Spotify as well. That's been all for today, and we will see you later.